Good morning, reading friends. Today we are talking about lesson 7. Let's figure out tricky words. Today you may need your journal and a pencil to sit beside you if you need it. That way it's handy for you. Today, as we're talking about understanding tricky words and trying to figure out strategies to solve unknown words, I have put in just a little Jack Hartman video about Stretchy the snake. And you may remember in first grade where you learned to stretch out those words. So let's just watch Jack just really quick about stretching out some words today.
Jack Carson! Kids Music Channel!
Stretchy the word snake goes this and that way. Stretchy the word snake loves stretching words. He takes a word like sun, then he'll stretch it, just like this. Sun, 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 sun. He takes a word like red, then he'll stretch it, just like this. Red, 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 red. Stretchy the word snake goes this and that way. Stretchy the word snake loves stretching words. He takes a word like nap, then he'll stretch it, just like this. Nap, 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 nap. He takes a word like log, then he'll stretch it, just like this. Log, 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 log. Stretchy the word snake goes this and that way. Stretchy the word snake loves stretching words. Loves stretching words.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to that. So now we are already thinking about some of those strategies that we know to solve unknown words. Our learning target today says, as a reader, I can use decoding strategies. Let's stop on that just for a second and make sure we understand what decoding strategies means. That's just a fancy way of saying I need to figure out what this word is. So I'm going to decode it. The next part of our learning target says, so I can figure out unknown words. I will know I have it when I can use a strategy to figure out unknown words. So today I want us to talk about, how do I figure out a tricky word? Well, the first thing we need to do is stop and think. So when we get to a word that we're not sure of, that's when we need to pause, roll up our sleeves, and get right to work, because we need to figure this out. What are some strategies that you already know how to use? You may know to stretch it. You may know to sound it out. You may be like Chunky Monkey and you may chunk it into pieces. So there are a lot of ways that we can figure out unknown words. When it's a tricky word, instead of stopping your reading and saying, help me, I want you to try this. I want you to look at the first few sounds, and I want you to start chunking the word. So I want you to look at this word that I have on the screen, and I've chunked it for us. I've split it into sections so that we can sound it out. The first part is yes, Y-E-S. We know that Y-E-S says yes and N-O says no. So I know that little chunk already, yes. The next chunk is ter. And the last chunk is day. We kind of know the word day because when we look at our days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, days on the end of all of those. When I stick that word together, it is yesterday, yesterday. When I look at that word, it looks really big in my reading, but when I break it apart and I chunk it, it makes it easier for me to sound it out. So I have our anchor chart that we're going to be working through for the next several lessons. And it says when you get to a tricky word, roll up your sleeves. Now that doesn't necessarily mean you have to roll up your sleeves literally. It just means that you need to dive in and don't give up. That's when the hard work starts and you need to try to sound something out. Another strategy that I want to teach you is about finding the missing word. And what you would do is you would try to figure out what word would make sense in place of that word. Maybe a synonym, because a synonym means the same. So I want us to try this. I put in just a little bit of reading from our Katie Wu Has the Flu story. And this is what it says. It says, later JoJo called Katie. I missed you today, Miss Winkle says. It's not the same without you. Thanks, Katie blank. So what could go in that blank if I'm not really sure what that word is? Think about that for a second. Okay, so I'm already thinking that you could have said, thanks, Katie said. Thanks, Katie cried. Thanks, Katie what? What are some other options? Let's look through some options that may fit there. Said, replied, or cried. We have seen those in our story before. Now I want to give you a little bit more to go with. I want to give you the first letters. So later, JoJo called Katie. I missed you today, Miss Winkle says. It's not the same without you. Thanks, Katie Oh, so it might say, thanks, Katie cried. That would make sense. It wouldn't be smiled because CR is not sm, it's cr. So I know that there is a little bit at the beginning for me to go on. So that helps me kind of guess what that word is. That's a strategy that you can use. Also, I'm thinking to myself from reading this story so much that Katie is sick and she's not feeling well. So I'm wondering if this word maybe has something to do with her being sick. So let's see if we can sound out another little bit of the word. So it says, thanks, Katie Crow. Katie Crow. What would that word be? Do you already know what it could be? You're right. It could be croaked. Because sometimes when we have a sore throat, we sound a little croaky. And so it could say, thanks, Katie croaked. And that is the correct response. So see how we chunk that into pieces to help us figure out the word? You can do that as well. I'd like for us to do some guided practice together, just like this, where you are going to help me just a little bit try to solve the tricky word. So let's look at the little piece of the passage. So this is a little bit more of the story. I'm going to read it to you, but when I get to the blank, I want you to start thinking about what would fit in that blank. Then Pedro called. He told Katie, when I broke my leg, blank wrote funny things on my cast. Lucky you, said Katie. There's no cast with the flu. Let's start thinking about that. What could go in that blank? When I broke my leg, blank wrote funny things on my cast. What could go there? What are you thinking? It could be people wrote funny things. Kids wrote funny things. Everyone wrote funny things. Everybody wrote funny things. Let's reveal what the first part is so we could actually see what we're thinking. So in red, it says, when I broke my leg, Ev. So is that kids? No, that is Ev. So what does Ev actually mean? Could it be, let's look back at our words. Could it be everyone? Could it be everybody? Yes, it could be one of those. Actually, the word is everyone wrote on my cast. Good thinking. So here are some steps on what you would do. The first thing you want to do is read the parts that you know. So if you know the words, read those. When you get to a word that you don't know, you want to look at the first 2 or 3 sounds and just sound that part out. Then decide what word would make sense. So we are using the chunking strategy. Today, for independent practice, you may have to use the chunking strategy. Today, you're going to be reading a passage called Beanie and the Missing Bear. And I want you to remember that if you come across a word you don't know, don't forget to look at those first 2 sounds and figure out what you think would make sense. That will help you a lot. Also, today we are increasing our reading stamina to 9 minutes. So this is where you want to set a timer beside you for 9 minutes. Find a comfortable spot where you're not distracted. If you want to read the Beanie story as part of your 9 minutes, you may. Please do that. Answer your questions about it on your Google form. That is fine. If you have extra time after that on your 9 minutes, take a book from your baggie and keep reading until that timer goes off. We want to make sure that we are increasing our reading time little by little until we're working closer to 10 minutes of reading time. Okay? You guys have done great listening to the video. Thank you so much. Make sure that you stop and you think about your lesson today. Did you do well with your reading? Were you able to chunk the words and guess a word that would make sense? That would be a 4. Were you mostly able to do everything on your own? You could read and chunk the words and didn't need a lot of help? That's a 3. Maybe you're a little confused. You had to get some help from a parent. That is 2. And then a number 1 would be, I'm really confused and I need to jump on the Google Meet and talk to you about my lesson. And definitely, I want you to do that. Let me know if you're needing help. All right? That's it for today. Don't forget to do your independent practice and read about Beanie. I think you're going to enjoy that story of the missing bear and all the places that she has to look for it. You guys have a great day. Enjoy a day of